We need to shut down the entrance to Valley Loop Trail immediately. There's been an incident and you are not going to believe what I just saw.
Everyone needs to get back. We need to clear the area.
Move back. Keep the area clear.
I don't know what the hell is back there, but we have a 3-hour drive.
So you have it secured? Good. When's your ETA?
It started with a single radio call that was short, urgent, and shaky. We need to shut down the Valley Loop Trail immediately. You're not going to believe what I saw. That transmission, according to internal chatter, was never acknowledged in the usual way. Within minutes, the channel went quiet. No location confirmed, no follow-up code. But those who were nearby say it didn't stay quiet for long. People who were hiking the Valley Loop that morning described a sudden shift in the park. First came the sirens. Short bursts, not the usual medical response. Then the rangers, not the seasonal volunteers, but the full-timers, the ones with body cams turned off and radios clipped tight to their shoulders. Then came the black trucks. No markings, no license plates. They arrived through a closed service road on the west side of the park, coming in fast, not speeding, but like they knew exactly where they were going. What happened next was only witnessed by a handful of visitors before the area was cleared. A large tarp, bright orange industrial, reinforced with thick grommets, was stretched across something in the brush just off trail. Whatever was under it had bulk, uneven shape, easily the size of a small car, but not metal, not mechanical. Some say they saw it move once. Some say it made a sound. None of that has been confirmed. What is confirmed by those present is that the perimeter was expanded and the tone shifted fast. Rangers stopped giving instructions and started giving orders. Back up, phones down, areas off limits. No one gave a reason, but the tension was palpable. The tarp was loaded onto a flatbed. It took a small crane system, one that was pre-mounted on the truck, like they knew they'd need it. People asked questions. Some tried to get closer. One man was reportedly told, "For your safety, you need to walk away right now." Within 45 minutes of the initial call, the thing, whatever it was gone, packed up, driven out. No press release followed. No mention in any official logs. The trail was briefly listed as closed for weather-related hazards, despite clear skies that day. But that wasn't the end of it. Roughly 1 hour after the recovery crew left the park, a quiet voice-only relay was intercepted through a known government comms hub on the East Coast. The origin isn't public, but what was said has made its rounds. Cargo's in motion. Conditions changed. Advise further containment. No names, no GPS tags. Just that. The voice was calm, like this wasn't the first time something like this had happened, and it wouldn't be the last. 3 days before the trail was locked down, something started to change in the valley. It was subtle at first. Visitors mentioned feeling uneasy on sections of the trail that normally felt serene. Small groups reported hearing heavy, deliberate footfalls off path, even though no one was nearby. Others claimed to smell something, a sharp, musky odor, like wet stone and decay. Then the reports started stacking. Low, rhythmic thuds, described like a log being slammed into the ground. Heavy, distant, always in 2s or 3s. Park staff assumed it was construction, but no crews were operating in that part of the park. According to those who were present, there was one particular zone, just beyond the riverbank near a rockfall clearing, that began to feel different. The air felt dense. Radios started cutting out in the same 50-foot radius. Trail cameras failed. One even shattered. Lens cracked from the inside. And that's when things escalated. A pair of contracted ecological surveyors were walking one of the side routes just before dusk. Soil analysis. Nothing unusual. No rangers with them. Just samples and clipboards. When they came back, they weren't talking. According to someone working at the same staff camp, the two refused to explain what they saw. They requested to be reassigned and packed their gear that night. One of them made a call from a satellite phone just after midnight. After that, they left the park entirely. One of them was overheard saying, "It stood there and watched us. It didn't move. It just stared like it was daring us to come closer." No official incident was filed. The trail they were on was quietly closed the next morning. The public-facing explanation, falling debris. But the next piece was harder to ignore. Just past 1 a.m., a tree-mounted motion sensor, one of the older models used to track bears near the trail perimeter, activated 3 separate times. Only one image was captured. It showed something massive at the edge of the frame, just the shoulder and partial silhouette, blurred by movement, covered in dark, matted hair. But what stood out most wasn't the size, it was the posture. It was standing upright, not like a bear rearing, like something that was always meant to stand. The figure was angled away from the camera, but its head was tilted, just enough to see one eye reflecting the IR light from the lens. That photo was erased from the park's internal system less than 5 minutes after it was uploaded. Staff who saw it before it vanished described the figure as powerfully built, disproportionate, and not something you could confuse with any known animal. Another ranger said it looked like someone had built a man out of muscle and bark, then let it walk too long through the woods until it forgot what it was supposed to be. The 2 other sensor triggers recorded no image at all, just static, as if something had moved too fast or blocked the signal entirely. Those sensors have never glitched like that before. The next morning, a 300-yard stretch of the trail was shut down. Orange tape, fresh gravel, no announcement. And that was the last quiet day the Valley Loop Trail would see, because the following morning, less than 36 hours later, the tarp would arrive. The orange tarp was gone by mid-morning. So were the trucks. So were the men. For most visitors, it looked like just another maintenance crew packing up equipment. A few curious onlookers were still asking questions, but the park kept its messaging simple. Trail closure, minor hazard, nothing to worry about. But behind the scenes, something was moving. Fast. Based on multiple unofficial sources, the convoy didn't exit through the main gate. It took a lesser-known service route, the kind used by wildlife contractors and emergency staff, leading southeast toward a rural highway. That road, according to a retired ranger familiar with its layout, connects to a logistics hub used for fuel, emergency power, and mobile storage. The kind of place with big generators and nobody around to ask questions. Here's where things get strange. Roughly 90 minutes after the flatbed left the park boundary, a rolling blackout occurred in a 3-mile corridor just outside the park's southern range. Power went down briefly. No storms, no roadwork. It wasn't widely reported, just a blip. But for people who live off-grid in that area, it was noticeable. A local utility worker posted about it the next day in an amateur radio forum saying, "We lost power on a dry day with no line activity. Substations were clean. It was like something pulled a drain on the entire grid for 20 seconds, then let go." At nearly the same time, a Department of Transportation maintenance crew was dispatched to that same stretch of road. Their job? Reroute civilian traffic around what was labeled a containment hazard. There was no spill, no fire, no official emergency, but a 10-mile detour was set up, with signage that didn't match any known code. One driver who took the wrong turn described seeing a single black truck pulled over near a turnout, surrounded by what looked like electromagnetic shielding. Tall metal panels, portable and lined up like temporary fencing. They were arranged in a wide arc. The driver didn't stop, but he said this: whatever they were trying to contain, it wasn't staying still. Several truckers reported seeing high-frequency interference on their GPS units while passing through the region. The screens didn't lose signal. They glitched, pulsing like sonar pings, before returning to normal. One freight company operating in that area even filed a quiet internal memo the following week about abnormal signal feedback near the Tioga corridor, and warned drivers to reroute long hauls around the area until environmental factors normalized. No one ever clarified what those environmental factors were. Meanwhile, back inside the park, something was off. The area near the extraction site, where the forest had been torn apart, was quickly replanted. Gravel was trucked in, signage replaced, new trail markers installed overnight, but no one who worked there felt like it had gone back to normal. One ranger described the silence in that area as too clean. The birds didn't come back, no squirrels, no bears. Nothing wanted to be there anymore. Even the soil, according to a staff geologist, came back wrong. Compact where it should have been soft. Warm just beneath the surface, like something underground hadn't cooled yet. And the strangest detail, the original ranger who made that first panicked radio call was no longer listed in the rotation log. When asked, management claimed he'd taken personal leave. No return date listed. Someone checked the ranger station he had used. His locker had been emptied. You'd think that once the black trucks left, it would be over. It wasn't. In fact, according to a few people still working the interior perimeter, things got worse. But not in the open. This wasn't another scene with crowds, containment tarps, and quick cleanup crews. This was quieter, and in some ways more disturbing. It happened just over a week after the initial extraction. A part of the valley loop that had remained temporarily closed due to alleged fire risk, despite no fires being recorded in the area, had recently been reopened to internal staff. The idea was to slowly reintegrate access, bring in solo rangers for check-ins, minor maintenance, signage review, nothing too involved. The first few days were uneventful, until the night shift. One ranger was sent in alone to do a short recon sweep of a low-traffic section past the river crossing. The route was mapped. He had his comms, his emergency transponder, and a check-in every 45 minutes. He made his first 2 check-ins. The third never came. What followed was a full internal search effort, not public, not announced. Staff were told it was a precaution. Most assumed the guy had fallen, twisted an ankle, maybe hit his head. But those who helped with the search found something they couldn't explain. Just off trail, about 100 yards past the old trail junction, they found a clearing. One of the trees at the center had been split clean in half, from the top of the trunk straight through the base, as if it had been sheared by force. Not cut, not rotted, split. The edges were raw. The wood hadn't cracked outward. It had been forced open. Lying at the base of that tree was a ranger vest, torn, dirty. The radio was still clipped to it, but the antenna was bent like it had been crushed under weight. There was no blood, no footprints, no signs of an animal attack. But what chilled the search team most wasn't what they saw. It was what they heard. One of the responders, now no longer with the service, described it this way. It wasn't a sound you hear with your ears. It was low, vibrating, like it got inside your chest, like you were standing next to something breathing, but it wasn't breathing with lungs. As they began marking the site for recovery, 2 members of the search crew reportedly began experiencing severe nausea. One vomited on site. Another had to be escorted back to the vehicle after suffering intense vertigo. The GPS units they carried lost orientation for nearly 6 minutes, spinning in place, unable to lock coordinates. Eventually, they had to leave the area. Whatever had happened there, the official response was silence. No ranger name was shared. No missing person bulletin was filed. The vest was taken. The tree, cut down the following morning and removed entirely. One person who saw the log before it was hauled out said it had deep gouges inside the split, not on the bark, inside the wood, like fingers had been dug in. And the vest? It wasn't the same one the original ranger had been wearing the week prior, which raises a question no one wants to answer. Was there more than one? By the end of that summer, something had shifted. Inside the park, the atmosphere was off, not just for staff, but for anyone paying close attention. Fewer rangers were visible. Trail access schedules became inconsistent. Entire areas on the public park map were listed as temporarily unavailable, with no explanation. But it wasn't just Yosemite anymore. Roughly 60 miles southeast, across rural terrain, Local residents in a wooded mountain community began reporting things. At first, it was just strange noises, low, distant, rhythmic impacts at night. Then came livestock disturbances. Large animals spooked in the middle of the night, fences broken from the inside, not outside. One family who lived near a fire road described a night where the air suddenly changed, like the atmosphere thickened. Windows shook slightly. A smell drifted through the trees, earthy, coppery, like iron and wet bark. They described hearing a low bellow, followed by silence. Not the quiet of calm, the quiet of everything hiding. A week later, a Park Service vehicle with no tags was spotted parked behind a logging station. Engine running, but empty. It was gone before sunrise. Then, just like that, things calmed down. No new sightings, no more perimeter fencing. The Valley Loop Trail reopened, completely resurfaced and freshly painted. If you went there today, you'd never know what happened. But here's the part most people never heard about. There's a facility about 4 hours east of the park, not publicly listed. It's not military, not medical, just a large parcel of land with a single long building and a vehicle bay built into a hillside. That facility received a special logistics transfer in the early hours of October 3rd. No driver logs were filed, no plate info recorded, but the delivery ID, according to one internal record, was tagged with a 5-letter code: return. The facility was locked down for 6 days after that. No entry, no exit. Everything scrubbed from the system. Since then, radio silence. The ranger who made the first call never returned to active duty, and the others? Reassigned, or just gone. There are no headlines, no whistleblowers, no lawsuits, just a handful of stories, half remembered, traded between seasonal staff like urban legends. But the one detail that always stays the same, it wasn't the size, it wasn't the shape, it wasn't the sound it made, it was the feeling. The moment when you realized that something in those woods wasn't supposed to be there, and it knew you didn't belong either.
We need to shut down the entrance to Valley Loop Trail immediately. There's been an incident and you are not going to believe what I just saw.
Everyone needs to get back. We need to clear the area.
Move back. Keep the area clear.
I don't know what the hell is back there, but we have a 3-hour drive.
So you have it secured? Good. When's your ETA?